We had some people who could not join us today. Alrighty, and I think we can get started. It's about 5:04. So hello, everybody. Welcome to the September club release virtual tasting. Marta, this is now our third year doing a virtual September club release.
I know, it's just time flies when you're having fun. But, honestly, if it hadn't been for the pandemic, we probably wouldn't have started these. And I think it's just been a great opportunity for us to be able to connect to our wine club that don't live locally, and we can all share a glass of wine together.
Yeah, and even if you are local, it's not often that the winemakers are walking around the tasting room pouring wine. And so having the opportunity to have the winemaker here in front of you guys willing to answer questions is such a unique opportunity. I really don't see anybody on here that has not been on one of our virtuals before, but since we do go ahead and post this online, for those of you who have been joining us from the very beginning, we're happy to see your faces. Those of you new to the virtual, my name is Chelsea and I am just part of the hospitality team here at Scheid. My role is usually to keep us on track and ensure we are always drinking. Unfortunately, my glass is empty today, but I will make sure you guys have wine in your glass. And I know you didn't join because of me. We all joined because we have the wonderful winemaker and wine educator here to talk us through 3 of our current releases from the September Club. So if you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself, Marta.
Well, hi, everyone. It's really nice to see you all again. Um, I've made wine in Monterey County for 40 years, so lots of gallons under my belt, as they say. And as many of you know, I've also taught a lot of classes for Scheid, as well as teaching 25 years of classes for Elder Hostel. And I just really love educating and demystifying wine for people, and exploring aromas and tastes and sharing it with you all.
All right, well, we are super glad to have you and excited to get started. So the agenda for today is simple. We're going to be tasting through the 2021 Viognier first, move on to the 2018 SLH Reserve Pinot Noir, and finish off with the 2020 Aublat Red. So for each wine, we're just going to talk a little bit about the grapes, the production, the tasting notes, and throw in a few other facts where we can find them. And so whether or not you all started drinking your pumpkin spice lattes in August, like I did, or you're the holiday procrastinator that isn't even ready for Halloween, there are multiple festivities coming up over the next few months. And so we're gonna try to kind of incorporate how we could fit these wines into those festivities and those holidays as we see fit, but you definitely don't need a holiday or a special occasion to drink any of these wines.
Yes, that's true. And we're not just talking about Thanksgiving and Christmas here. For instance, did you know that today is National Strawberry Cream Pie Day? I mean, who knew? Um, we have lots of days worth celebrating and over the next few months. And one of them for all us winemakers is the end of harvest.
Yes. Not only is today National Strawberry Cream Pie Day, as Marta said, but and Lisa just said, who knew there was a strawberry cream pie? Strawberry pie maybe, but now I'm going to have to Google what strawberry cream pie actually is. But it is also, let's see, what's it called? I don't want to get the way it's called wrong, but it is also, today is the day to ask that stupid question. But there are no stupid questions here. So if you're wondering something that you never got around to asking, something you've always been thinking, oh, that's stupid, I should already know that. It's not stupid. Today is the day you can ask Marta that question. So for cooking strawberry cream pies and asking questions.
I have no recipes.
Yeah, just don't ask how to make strawberry cream pie. We don't know what the answer to that one is going to be. We're only tasting through 3 of the 9 wines too. So if we released something that you guys didn't get, or we're tasting something that you guys didn't get in your shipment, and you have a question about one of those, we can ask questions about that. Food pairing options, just a specific question about production. I will try to keep track of the chat button here as we go through everything. But just because I can't drink doesn't mean I should hold the rest of you back. Marta, should we get started with the 2021 Viognier?
I think so. And this is our 2021 Viognier. My bottle is a little wet. So cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers. Here's looking at you. So this is our 2021 Viognier. This comes from our San Lucas vineyard, which is located about half an hour south of the winery in South Monterey County. And this Viognier is fermented in stainless steel, as it's really such an aromatic grape, and we really want to try to accentuate all that beautiful fruit.
Yeah, I took this out of the fridge only about 10 minutes before the start, and I was thinking that I wasn't going to get the aromas for a while because I needed to warm up a little, but man, they hit me right away. What does stainless steel do to the final product of this wine?
Well, stainless steel, as well as the access to refrigeration, are like the two biggest changes that have affected winemaking in the last 100 years. Stainless steel, unlike wood, you can use it for red wine and for white wine. I think all of you can imagine that if you put red wine into an oak barrel or into a wood tank, that wood would hold some of the color, and you can't really go back to a white wine. Whereas with stainless steel, you can just wash the tank and use it for red or use it for white. Stainless is also really easy to sanitize. So if you had any worries about any kind of microbial contamination, you could sanitize the tank. And then probably the thing that winemakers love the most is that you have access to refrigeration. Usually when you walk into a winery and you see the dimpled areas on the tanks, those are the jackets. That's where the fermentation, the glycol is that can keep the temperature in the tank at a certain specific temperature range. And as a winemaker, I like to ferment aromatic whites fairly cool at 50, 55 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'll set the temperature and kind of just let it go.
So someone asked, what type of red wine would you put in stainless steel?
Oh, so we can ferment in, at Scheid, if you were going to ferment a Cabernet, for instance, all of our Cabernet is on the big side of the winery. When you've been down to visit the winery, on the big side, those are all stainless steel tanks. Only on the Scheid label do we ferment in some smaller size capacities, like our fermenter bins and such. And that's usually depending on the amount of yield that we get, how much wine we get.
Yeah, and all the Scheid label wine the reds are done in small oak barrels.
Well, they're fermented in fermenter bins or in a small stainless steel tank that we can pump, and aged in barrels. Yes.
Aged in barrels. Yes, that's what I mean.
Yes.
Awesome. For me, on the nose, stone fruit, some floral notes. I did do a little taste test earlier, and it really left my mouth like watering.
I know there's some really rich floral notes in this wine. A lot of peaches, stone fruit, apricots, and there's citrus and a lot of floral notes as well. The palate really showcases the acidity to me, and it's crisp, and I really love that it has a tropical fruit finish as well.
Yeah, totally. What do you guys think about this one? I'm curious. I do see a few of you are drinking this, and I know a good amount of people actually purchased the whole bundle to do the tasting with us. So definitely put in the chat what you guys are getting on the nose or on the palate. Just make me jealous and go ahead and tell me how delicious it is when you can actually swallow the wine. But When I did do my little taste test, I definitely got what I would consider like a mouthfeel on this. This one had a nice mouthfeel.
Yeah, that a lot of people when they talk about Viognier, they talk about the mouthfeel, and often one of the terms that's used is fat or fullness in the mouth.
So why would we say as we're drinking this Viognier, why would we maybe get more fullness or mouthfeel as opposed to when we try the Sauvignon Blanc or the Albarino, where you don't get that fullness?
Well, so Viognier berries have really thick skins, and sometimes winemakers will destem the fruit and then allow the fruit to sit on the skins briefly prior to pressing. And you'll get a lot of increased phenolic compounds that way, a lot of increased aromatic compounds as well. For me, I find that for Sauvignon Blanc and Albarino, those are more delicate. They have similar aromatics, but it's a little more delicate. And I just love the richness and the fullness that you get in this with this Viognier.
Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. Ugh, gosh, it's so good. Okay, you guys keep sipping, I'll keep sniffing. Let's just talk a little bit about the grape itself. So Viognier is really not a very common grape here in Monterey County.
No, that's true. We are lucky enough to have 3 acres planted at Scheid at our San Lucas vineyard. Not long ago, this grape was considered nearly extinct. In the 1960s, there was only 15 acres worldwide, and they were all in France. Luckily, since then, things have changed, and we've really seen some substantial growth. We now have almost 40,000 acres of Viognier planted worldwide and about 2,500 planted in California.
And even 2,500 acres, that's kind of a small amount of acreage for California in general. And the grape is relatively new to California. It came in the 1980s. And so we do get a lot of guests that come into the tasting room. And when we have it on the menu, they've never even heard of the grape. So let's talk a little bit about the origins of Viognier before it was brought over and now planted in California.
So this grape was historically planted in the northern Rhone region of France, and it is thought that the Emperor Probus brought this grape from the region of Dalmatia, which is now part of Croatia, in 281 AD. Now he did so because his predecessor got angry at the locals and they revolted. And so he ripped out all their vines in retaliation because he attributed the revolt to the locals drinking too much wine.
Oh my goodness. Well, we definitely don't need any revolutions here. And I would go ahead and say that there's no such thing as too much wine, especially good wine. Viognier is the only permitted variety in Condrieu, which is in Northern Rhone. Marta, go ahead. You can now help me pronounce my terrible French and fix that.
Yes, the region of Condrieu is the smallest region in the Rhone Valley, and it only has about 10 acres total and almost entirely Chateau Grillé. It is the smallest in the region right after Romani, the smallest region in all of France right after Romani-Conti in the Burgundy region. And the dominant feature in the Rhone Valley is the Rhone River. This starts in the Swiss Alps and it comes out of the Swiss Alps and then makes a dramatic turn to the south and heads out towards the Mediterranean. It's the Rhone River helps. It's been used for trade and all its tributaries since the Romans to move wine and other goods up and down the river.
Yes, awesome. Those rivers and the transportation, you forget back then it wasn't as easy as getting something 2-day delivered from Amazon or like Drizzly where the alcohol just shows up at your door. You don't even have to go down to the liquor store anymore. Kristen, I got about 10 more weeks. So not counting down the days over here or anything like that until I can imbibe.
Not yet.
Not yet. I didn't pull up a map for you guys, but in France, the region in the Rhone Valley where Viognier is predominantly grown is actually about the same latitude as Seattle. So really much further north from us and where we're growing our Viognier. But one thing that both the Rhone Valley and a region like Monterey does have in common is the wind.
Yes, that is really true. So the Rhone River really helps to mitigate the climate, and it will make it a little warmer than it really would be for such a northerly location. Wind is definitely something we both have in common. In the Rhone, there's the Mistral winds, and they blow in the spring and the winter and the spring, and they blow from the center of France down and out through the Mediterranean. And those of you that are familiar with our area know that we have wind as well, since we are exactly wind powered. But our winds tend to blow in the summer, which is dependent on the maritime climate that we have here and the Pacific Ocean currents. I think that it's just a reminder that different growers, no matter where they're growing grapes in the world, have to deal with different climatic circumstances, different weather patterns, and it's just they're challenges to growers, and growers have learned to adapt.
I feel like we need a name for the Monterey wind. The Mistral is so like mysterious and official sounding. I think we should get like the Monterey Weekly should put together like a poll, and we get to name that Salinas Valley wind that comes through. Open for suggestions. I came up with this first, so my name will be kind of CC'd on it, but if you can come up with a cool name, let me know.
But what did you come up with?
I didn't come up with anything. I know when we talked about this, Marta, what did you had something?
I probably had something obscene, but you know.
Probably, yeah, that makes sense. So we'll keep that to ourselves and out of the papers. But what does wind do to vines in general?
So in the spring, if the wind is really strong, it can actually break off the shoots because the shoots are really brittle. But it also acts as to keep the air moving so that it minimizes the damage that frost can do by keeping the air moving. During harvest time, the winds can help keep the clusters dry, for instance. So if you've gotten some rain or some moisture like we recently had, the wind can definitely help dry off those clusters. And it can also actually, there's a physical change that can occur within the berries because you figure these berries are getting buffeted by the wind. They actually have to get tough. And so the skins get tougher, you get more phenolics, you get more aromatic compounds forming. So ultimately more flavor. Also, the wind during ripening can actually cool down a region, and this allows for a slower ripening and more time for the fruit to develop over time.
Yeah, and I would assume the further down you go the Salinas Valley, the hotter it gets, the more important it is to kind of let it cool down once in a while. And I definitely think that our slower ripening grapes really help add to the complexity of the wine itself. This Viognier is a perfect example. Christine from San Antonio, Texas, thanks for joining us. She said this is their first Scheid Viognier and they truly love it. I could not agree more. I think we have nothing to do with making this, but I think Scheid does a really good job with this Viognier. And another thing I did want to mention is even though Viognier is kind of drought resistant, which is definitely going to help us here, especially in California, this is not an easy grape for us to grow.
No, it's certainly not. Viognier is prone to disease, and it's also prone to having very unpredictable yields, mostly due to an uneven fruit set. So if you look at a cluster, you would have some that was ripe, some of the berries would be ripe, and some of the berries that would be unripe. In fact, there is a legend that the name Viognier came from the Roman pronunciation from the biblical reference Via Gehenna, which translates as road to the valley of hell, which might have been a reference to how difficult these grapes are to grow.
Yeah, I definitely love mentioning the labor kind of and the obstacles when it comes to grape growing. It's so easy when we're just sitting here, we're enjoying it. We know it's delicious, but it's hard to really understand or comprehend how much goes into getting such a delicious final product. And a lot of it sometimes can even be out of our control. I keep saying our, like I'm out there doing anything.
You are.
Speaking of delicious final product, let's talk delicious food pairing wines for this Viognier.
So for me, with the depth of the flavors that you get from this Viognier, it lends itself to many different kinds of food. If you wanted to accentuate some of the fruit components, think of something like a pork loin, maybe cooked with pears or peaches or apricots. Also, or even a stir fry. I also think this wine pairs very well with shellfish. That sweetness of the shellfish, that umami in the shellfish, I think it really pairs well, really well with Viognier.
Yeah, that all sounds fantastic. I think also if you guys have any friends who love a good charcuterie board like I do, this is a nice gift if you're going over to someone who is going to be doing it or likes making charcuterie, just because it pairs super well with those soft and hard cheeses. And then, of course, we all throw on that healthy fruit that we pretend to we're going to eat, but it would pair really well with a lot of those fruits too. And I also think, and again, now it's end of September, and my sister told me she already got my Christmas present. I'm like, whoa, we're not even in October yet. But if you are looking to gift a wine to someone that maybe does a lot of takeout or DoorDashes their meal, this is certainly the wine that would pair with that spicy curry that has shrimp or broccoli or even some type of stir fry. And we did mention the other fun holidays coming up. So November 16th, mark your calendars, is National Fast Food Day. Might be a stretch to consider takeout of fast food, but my argument, I guess I'll go with, it's faster than cooking it yourself. So I think that that would be a good gift for someone who likes takeout.
I also think this is a good porch wine for Halloween. You know, October in Monterey tends to be just a really beautiful month, and just kind of balmy in the evenings. And you know, think about 5 o'clock when all the cute kids are coming out, the young ones, not the high school age kids, and you're sitting on your porch having a glass and handing out candy. And since we're talking holidays, and most of you know, I have a real fondness for aromatic white wines. Wine will definitely be on my table at Thanksgiving, probably alongside of a Pinot Noir as well.
All right, and we got, I was just gonna ask you guys what you would pair this with. Uh, Sue and Ken and Linda,
Gorgonzola and fruit jam. Yes.
that's what they're enjoying it with right now. That sounds absolutely fantastic. Yes, thumbs up. So I guess it's a good pairing it. And I was even thinking, and again, I can't even partake in it, but I would bring a bottle of this to go apple picking and bring my sippy cups. I think that would be really nice. Get a little Instagram photo out of
Not
it.
sippy cups for the twins, though.
Not for the little babes, not yet. Although I have heard if you know, a little dash on the bottle and they go to sleep quicker. No, we don't do that anymore. Okay. All right. So before I make myself really jealous, let's go ahead and move on. We've got apples and it's tasty. Okay, healthy. We're going with the healthy fruit. All right. Keep putting in anything you guys are tasting or pairing it with, or what you would pair it with or plan to pair it with down the line. And let's go ahead and move on to the 2018 Pinot Noir, Santa Lucia Highlands. I've got that bottle. This one is a reserve that we just released as well.
So this is the 2018 vintage, and the Santa Lucia Highlands, for those of you that don't know, is an appellation within Monterey, the appellation itself. It's known for a relatively cool climate, and it predominantly produces Pinot Noir and Chardonnay.
Before we started, I just sat here and smelled this for like 10 minutes. Okay. I know we farm about 100 acres, a few hundred acres of Pinot with our estate wine. So why do we source these grapes from the Santa Lucia Highlands?
So none of our vineyards are in the Santa Lucia Highlands, and Scheid has always liked to experiment with different locations and different varieties and different regions. So we wanted to produce a small amount of wine from this area. As we have discussed so often, Monterey is really blessed. I mean, we have 9 different AVAs in Monterey, And we have found that the fruit from the Santa Lucia Highlands, the clusters tend to be small, the berries tend to be small, and with thicker skins and full of lots of flavor. So it's just a really different Pinot Noir than, say, for our Riverview Pinot Noir.
Yeah, and I believe it was back in May when we tasted through the Reserve Santa Lucia Highlands Chardonnay, which was also from Santa Lucia Highlands. And we discussed AVAs, or American Viticultural Area. And we talked a little bit about it when it's on the label, that legally that means that 85%, at least 85% of the grapes have to come from that AVA. And it really does help protect the name, and it helps consumers like you guys, when you're choosing wines, you'll be able to know what you're getting is where it's saying it's from. So typically, the smaller the geographical area listed, the higher the percentage of grapes would come from that area. Do you want to talk a little bit about why this AVA is so prized?
So back in prehistoric times, when I first started making wine in Monterey County, all the Santa Lucia Highlands was planted with Bordeaux varieties, Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon. And the growers had a lot of trouble because of the elevation and the cool climate getting this fruit ripe. And so over time, they started slowly pulling out those Bordeaux varieties and planting more of the Burgundian varieties. So now the Santa Lucia Highlands officially is an AVA. It became an AVA in 1992, and there's over 6,000 acres planted in the Santa Lucia Highlands. And for this particular Pinot Noir, it's a 100% from the Doctor's Vineyard, and it has 3 different clones. It has the Calera clone, the Pommard clone, and the 777.
Like a glass of wine a day keeps the doctor away, is how I would remember that. Pre-working in the wine industries, my husband and I, we lived in San Diego, and we used to go to Napa. And so we became those like bougie, we only like big, bold Napa cab people. And I really wasn't even a fan of Pinot. I thought it was just too light and kind of tasted like grape juice to me. And then I moved to Monterey, and drinking Pinot grapes from a climate that is just so suited to grow such a complex grape has really, really changed my opinion. And now Pinot Noir is actually my favorite of all the varieties. And I know, Marta, you say they're like children, you can't pick a favorite, but I can say it. And this is by far, our Santa Lucia Highlands Pinot is definitely on the top 3 of my all-time favorite lists. Definitely type in what you guys like about this in the chat as we go. Speaking about climates, how well Monterey does with Pinot, let's talk about where this grape originated from, since now we should all be fully educated on the origins of Viognier.
So it is thought that Pinot Noir is indigenous to the Burgundy region of France. When the Romans invaded that region, they found that wine was already being made there. But at that time, the variety was called Helvetia Minor. It wasn't documented as being called Pinot Noir until 1345. And when writers talk about Burgundy, they're always talking about the terroir, or the place, or the vineyard, which is what gives the wine the quality and makes it an exceptional wine. And I think that's one of the reasons that Scheid has enjoyed sourcing Pinot Noir from different locations, is because the locations really make a difference in Pinot Noir, much more so than a Cabernet, for instance.
What if we just right now start the drinking game where we don't say Pinot Noir, and every time you have to call it Helvetia Minor? And then if you say Pinot instead, everybody has to drink. Let's play this game when I can drink and I can get buzzed with
Yeah, there you go.
To that game. Okay.
After the babes are born.
Yes. All right. Let's go ahead. Scott says, love everything about the Pinot. Absolutely 100% agree with you on that. Let's talk a little bit about flavor profile on this and what makes it taste so delicious.
Well, as I already mentioned, this is this is probably going to be on my Thanksgiving table because it should come as no surprise. I just love this style of wine. I love the lightness of the fruit, the bright, juicy red fruit, the raspberries, the dried cherries, the currants, and the subtle floral notes, as well as those hints of oak that are really underlying. It's just really a full, very rich wine.
Yeah, there's so much complexity to this. I get that Christmas spice on the nose, you know, that kind of hint of cinnamon, a little allspice. I want to make this a candle. And then you kind of get that red fruit, a little cranberry, and it really then finishes with that pretty earthy, soft, rich oak texture. Sue, Ken, and Linda said wonderful nose, very aromatic, even though it's a lighter color. It's a big Pinot and well balanced with not too much acidity. Yeah, this one is special. Okay, so this specific vintage of the 2018 is aged in 42% new French oak. So how does that lend to the flavor of what we're getting right now?
So, as a winemaker, you want the flavors of the oak to complement the wine. Kind of like a wine and food pairing. You don't want any one to be overpowered. You don't want the oak to overpower the fruit. Scheid uses only French oak for the Pinot Noirs so as not to overpower this delicate fruit aroma. And it's important to remember that the American oak and French oak are two different species of oak. And so they will definitely, the composition and the flavors will change depending just based on the species alone. But there's also the cooper or the barrel maker can make a difference in how they cure the barrel staves and how the staves are toasted. I get a lot of really sweet vanilla, hazelnut, kind of a mocha characteristic from the barrels, and it also adds some structure to the mouthfeel.
And that's another nice hint for people or consumers to pick up on when drinking a wine. Some of those flavor profiles that you mentioned at the end, a lot of that comes not necessarily from the grape, but from the oak that it's aged in. We mention it every time we do a Pinot Noir, but this wine definitely offers itself as a beauty of a food pairing wine.
I know it's so versatile and food friendly, and often I get asked, "Oh, what can I take to dinner?" And I think Pinot Noir is one of those. It covers all the bases. It would go with everything from salmon to lamb chops because it's got soft, subtle tannins, that balanced acidity, that bright red fruit. And interestingly enough, this is also one of the wines that pairs exceptionally well with foods high in umami, such as mushrooms, for instance.
I'll pass on the mushrooms, but since I am now in the gifting mode, anything wine related these days, I think about who would enjoy this as a gift, and this wine I would enjoy as a gift to myself.
Is that a hint?
So everybody there, keep note. I would gift
Chelsea, Christmas.
2018 Santa Lucia. I'll put my address in the comment. And I think that this might be my first post-pregnancy bottle of wine I open where I can really go at it. This is probably going to be it. So the secret plan is for my husband to smuggle some Isabel sparkling into the hospital. And that's going to be like my first sip just to celebrate the fact that I birthed two humans. But then when I come home, this bottle is going to be it. We do have a question. So how does the 18 compare to the 17 SLH?
Well, I haven't tasted them side by side in some time, but and I'd have to look up the percentage of the clones to see, but it's made up of the same three clones from the same vineyard. So the differences would then probably be the vintage year. So it would definitely be very similar to this in style. I just don't remember the clone percentages, and I haven't tasted them side by side to be able to actually answer that question.
Well, what's
Well,
interesting is Sue, Ken, and Linda asked this question, and they do have both these bottles. So they should go ahead and open them and tell us what
there
the
you
difference
go.
in,
Yeah.
tell the winemaker what the difference is
Yeah,
between the
let us
17 and the 18.
know.
You guys let us know, okay? And then Christine said, we haven't had a shied Pinot Noir yet, but we have had the rosé, and it's their favorite rosé. So
Oh, nice. Thank you.
we will take it. I definitely suggest getting your hands on some of the Pinot, but yeah, the rosé all day. We're fine with that.
Chilled. Oh,
Yeah.
best time of year for that.
Yes. Okay. So definitely curious. Put in the comments what you guys think about this Pinot if you have it in front of you, even if you've just tried it in the past. I know we have this 17 reserve SLH in the tasting room. Right now, this 18 is still exclusive just to you guys, just to club members. And I'd love to know if you guys are going to have this at your holiday party. We do get a lot of people that come into the tasting room that don't taste wine themselves or don't drink, but they come in to buy a bottle for dinner, or they need a gift as they're on their way to a birthday party. And pretty much everyone, all our staff usually recommends Pinot, because even if you don't have somebody's exact palate preference and you don't really know what they like, there's just, like we said, it could be paired with so much. It offers so many different kind of levels to it.
Yes, and so since you're going to be having your hands full, I guess I'll be having to make the charcuterie board this time.
Yes, or you can bring me a bottle of this and I could be bribed into making a charcuterie board. If you have, I'll let you take them, one in each hand. And I will go ahead and I'll make the board. We do have the 18 in large format, the Santa Lucia Highlands 18. We do have that in large format. We released that last year, I believe, and we have some bottles left, and that is etched in a beautiful, beautiful magnum, and is absolutely a fantastic centerpiece for any table. So maybe I take it back. I'm not going to open, my first bottle will not be a 750. I will be opening a magnum to make up for those 9 months.
And I think a Magnum Thanksgiving is the perfect opportunity to open one of those bigger bottles when you have a large crowd. People seem to think, oh, a Magnum, it's so much wine, but in reality, it's only 10 glasses. Well, I guess.
10 small, it's like 10 smaller sized glasses. It's 2 bottles of wine, like easy peasy. And it's so beautiful. And then you can turn it into like a vase or something, or a giant candle if you wanted to. But yeah, the large formats are super beautiful, perfect for a large group of people. Kristen said she's having a lot of people over for Thanksgiving with varied tastes, and this would probably be a good option. So yeah, your vegetarian could pair it with their meal, and the meat eater could pair it with their meal, and you would be good to go. Okay, one more sip, then I'll have to get rid of this. This is like sacrilege dumping this out. Okay.
Oh, don't dump it out.
I am now ready to go home, eat a cooked turkey. I'm ready for the Halloween candy. Let's go ahead and move on to our all-time club favorite, the Odd Lot Red. We just released the 2020 vintage here.
Oh,
Marta's got.
that's my doorbell. Hang on 1 minute. Oh, Zoom.
We'll just pour this. You guys don't know, but Marta's always getting all this wine delivered to her house. So I think it makes sense that people are always trying to knock on her door and join her party, because it probably looks like she's always just having like giant events with so much wine.
Sorry, that was my veterinarian. For those of you that don't know, I lost my puppy last month, and wasn't a puppy anymore. She was 17, but he just stopped by to drop us a little box of chocolates and to say hello. So I it was so sweet. And so I had to go get my husband to go out and chat with him.
Oh, I was I
I'm
was
sorry for the interruption.
I was telling them that usually you're just getting like pallets of wine delivered to your house. So it was
Yeah,
probably a
no.
neighbor or something trying to come over and like ask for some wine.
Yeah, I know. I tell my neighbors across the street, if you ever run out, so if you guys know where I live, if you ever run out, so where are we? We're on the 2020 odd lot.
Yes, you're about to tell us what this odd lot is comprised of.
So this vintage is comprised of 13 different varieties. Some Zinfandel, some Cabernet Sauvignons, Tannat, Petit Syrah, Pinot Noir, Touriga Nacional, and Tinto Cao. 6 of those 13 individual varieties make up less than 2% of the entire blend.
Wow. Yeah. And I don't think we've tasted through the Outlaw Red in a while on one of these virtuals, but I do know we tasted through the Outlaw White at some point in 2022. And I told everyone to read the back of the label to understand where the name came from. Less than 100 shares of stock is a definition of odd lot. But it also has 13 varieties, which I think kind of makes it an odd lot in itself. And we do always talk about this wine being super approachable and versatile. You could serve this up at a really nice dinner, or you could just bring it to a picnic. The screw top helps with that. But what's I think really nice about this blend is we don't have to follow any rules. We're not calling this a Bordeaux blend or a Rhone blend like our GSM. It's kind of just its own unique thing, which is nice. So Marta, go ahead and tell us a little bit about why this blend, why we make it, and why it's our best-selling blend, basically.
So for those of we've talked about this before, but blends are actually really difficult for winemakers to make. If you're pulling out, say, a Barbera out of the barrels, you just pick the best barrels and that's it. But with a blend, you have to go through and decide which varieties you want to use. And since Scheid has so many, it's difficult. And we're trying to make a wine that's consistent from year to year. So sometimes the varietals change slightly, but we're trying to make that the overall taste of the wine is similar. And I think because you get so many different flavors out of this wine is why it's such a fan favorite. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense that basically anybody, no matter what your favorite wine is, you can kind of find something in this blend that will appeal to you. And something I don't think a lot of people know when they drink this is we actually have a white grape that has been added into this mixture as well.
Yes, we add a small amount, about 2% of Gewürztraminer every year, just because we really feel that it lightens the palate and it really accentuates the fruit component as well, really makes it shine.
Yeah, I'm loving this vintage. I loved the 19 vintage, and again, it's interesting because I love the 19 vintage for something completely different than I'm getting on the 20, but again, it still has that kind of consistency. And we're highlighting a blend that has 13 varieties in it, all Scheid varieties. So I think it is a little bit important that we touch on the variety of grapes in general that Scheid farms.
So Monterey County has over 50 different varieties that we farm. Some in very small quantities and some in large quantities, such as our Pinot Noir. And Scheid farms a total of just over 35. And granted, 17 of those varieties, we have less than 2 acres each, but that's still enough to make a really nice varietal bottle of wine. And so we can share those. And for a winemaker, it's just a fantastic opportunity to be able to work with so many different varieties.
Okay, so what are we tasting on this 2020 vintage? I know from what I'm smelling, plum, I'm getting black cherry, maybe even a little mocha is what I'm getting. And I feel like like right now, my senses, I get something different every time I smell it. I'm
I like
curious.
the who gets invited to the blending party.
Oh yeah,
Well,
who does get
you know,
invited?
you can do that on your own at home. You just take a few bottles and, and see what works.
Exactly.
Uh,
Just come in, buy like 5 different reds, and then make your own blend, and then give us a call if you come up with something really good, and we'll give you some royalties on it.
uh, so I get lots of berries on this: blackberries, strawberries, raspberries, some plums, and also some of that really sweet toasty oak. This wine is soft, yet it's got a lot of structure and it's medium body, but it's really a juicy wine.
Yeah, Kristen said Odd Lot was one of the first wines we tried at the Monterey tasting room when we lived there. It sold us on joining Shide, and that was 12 years ago. That's crazy.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
here's to that. That's awesome.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, and here we are still going strong with this Odd Lot, and it's again, I always mention approachable with this, but I really think that people that are new to wine in general, this has so much to offer them. Great for barbecues, super casual, but you could also dress this up with a fancy, again, charcuterie or something like that, because it just could lend itself to so many different situations.
I know it's a really adaptable wine. I think it would go from anything from Chiappino to ribs, honestly. It's just has so many flavors. Really, really wonderful.
And now you're saying ribs, and I'm thinking football. So that would be another great thing, you guys. This would be an awesome addition to a tailgate party, or if you do Sunday football at your house. I think that this would work with a lot of dishes that you would put out with that type of event.
Yeah, I think Odd Lot would be great with addition to a tailgate party, football game. Um, uh, it's and it would even be great with Thanksgiving, or at Christmas time. This would be a sort of wine that you could use to make mulled wine with. I'm one that thinks that wine should be available for all occasions. And, I've had people go, "Oh, don't say anything, but I put an ice cube in my wine." And it's like, I don't care. If that's how you like to drink wine, by golly, drink wine like that. I don't think we need to have a white tablecloth every time we sit down with a bottle of wine. Wine has been made for thousands of years, and it's consumed for health, for intoxication, inebriation, and as well an enjoyment. It also adds to the flavor and to the complexity of foods and acts as a social lubricant between all of us and our family and our friends.
I know. I feel like I'm gonna have to go back to one of the older virtuals we did where I can drink, and I'll be like, man, I was a lot funnier. Back when I had loosened up a little bit. My gosh. And Scott said that this one also was one that convinced them to become members as too.
Oh, that's so great.
It's such a cool thing, and again, it doesn't matter how you drink it or where you drink it. It's just it could be out of a paper cup at the beach, or in a crystal glass. So I think, again, it's all about bringing people together, which is what it's all about. And I think the 3 wines that we tasted through today are really good representations of any addition to an event to bring people together during the festivities. I know some of you guys received the Grenache Blanc that we just released, the Petite Syrah. If you're in our White Lovers Club, you got the new Roussanne, which is super fun. If you're in the Red Lovers Club, we released a GSM, the Kurtz Cab. So if you have any questions about that, of course, but those are all wines that I think could be added to any addition the next few months.
That's quite an impressive assortment of wines that you shipped out. A little bit of something for everybody.
Yes. And Kim said she has helped to sell the Odd Lot in the tasting room, her number one. Yes, our brand ambassador, Kim and Lynn, come in and basically do our jobs for us. We could just, they come in and we're like, okay, we're going to go take a break. We'll be back. You guys got it covered. If you are, I think any day, any occasion is a good occasion to drink wine. I think COVID taught me anything, it's like, I'm not going to wait for that special day to open a good bottle. So me and my husband will find a bottle that we've been saving it on a Tuesday, be like, let's go ahead, and we almost enjoy it more without that expectation. But I did pull up some dates that if you feel you need a special occasion to open any of our Shy bottles because they're so special. We have October 3rd is National Boyfriend Day. So if you've got a boyfriend, you can open a bottle.
Or if you are the boyfriend.
Or you are the boyfriend, you can open a bottle for yourself. One that I love, and I really hope everybody does this, is October 5th is Do Something Nice Day. And I think that you should do something nice for yourself and open a bottle of wine, or do something nice for me and send me a bottle of wine. But that is October 5th, so put that one on your calendar. Yes, and again, if any of those other wines you guys have questions about, I did tell Marta to be prepped for them. So I will just keep my eye on the chat in case you guys have any last minute questions. But while I do that, it is end of September down at the winery. What is going on right now?
So it's always a really busy time, and it really kind of depends on the weather, the ripeness of the fruit, and ultimately what becomes the most valuable commodity in the winery at this time of year is real estate. And in our sense, that's available tanks. Um, so our director of winemaking, Dave Nagangas, works very closely with the vineyard team to try to bring the fruit in a timely and an efficient manner. Uh, but it isn't always easy. So for instance, what if you planned on picking 2 truckloads of Cabernet? The estimate had said we have 50 tons of Cabernet out there in this particular vineyard. But when you picked it, you realized that you only had 1 truck. So that the yield estimate was off. Then when it gets into the winery, the winemakers have to scramble around like chickens with their heads cut off, trying to find an appropriately sized tank that will fit in, and hopefully one will be available. I often think that winemaking at this time of year is most kind of like a game of chess, making sure that this is available for this fruit at this time when this comes in.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Winemaking, they have their work cut out for them. But however daunting that might be, we don't have to do any of that work. We just get to celebrate it by having a party. So for those of you who have not already RSVP'd, October 1st is our annual club harvest party. Word on the street is we are celebrating 50-year anniversaries. So this one is going to be over the top. I have heard rumors of some grape stomping and a frozen machine. And I know Shide actually just started partnering with the Monterey Hyatt. So if you're from out of town and you're like, I can't make it, no excuses. You could still book your ticket, hop on a plane tomorrow or the next day and come celebrate with us.
No excuses. So I personally don't get the allure of grape stomping. Somehow people always think that it's going to look like the 1956 episode of I Love Lucy. So first off, I want you to know that when you step on a container of grapes, you don't sink to the bottom. There's not a lot of juice. You really have to kind of start doing a little dance to get the fruit to soften up, and that will slowly yield the juice. And you have to do some serious stomping to get something as juicy as Lucy did. Also, FYI, bees really love this sort of adventure. I have been stung many, many times as a winemaker, usually from crawling up a ladder that was sticky and I put my hand on it, grab the bee. But for those of you that are tempted to stomp, just watch out. I think that being said, I think it's something that everyone might want to try once in their life, just for the experience of how the grapes feel as squishing between your toes.
Wow, tell us how you really feel, Marta. I think we might need to like rename you the Grouch of Harvest or something. My
No,
goodness.
no, 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 no. It's I can totally see I mean, but it's very nostalgic, and it's nostalgic, and it made it the wine industry. It pushed the wine industry back a bunch of years by Lucy doing this because people thought winemaking was primitive in 1956 because she was stomping the fruit with her
Well,
feet.
I think that a bee sting would be worth it for whatever Instagram shot you would get with taking a photo of that. So I'm already, I go to harvest when we harvest our Isabel. I do it for the experience, but I also get a really great photo every year doing it. So I would be stomping grapes for the picture. Kirsten says Bush will be there. Their guests opening up some wine while they hunker down for the hurricane party they're going to have in Georgia. So
Oh,
glad you're in Georgia and not Florida right now. Hopefully all our Florida people are doing okay. I don't see any other questions or comments. So as always, you guys know we love connecting with everybody, especially those that are out of state now, and love hearing things like Odd Lot being something that helped you join. Those stories are so cool and so fun to bring back to our bosses. Because again, it's a big community, but it's a small community, and it's really cool. For the November shipment, you guys, we will be doing it a little differently. I don't know if I'll be on screen late November, and I'm gonna save everybody from a hormonal, sober, 8-month pregnant version of myself. So what we plan on doing is coming up with an on-demand video that we'll send out with the actual email that'll go out with your November club when you're getting your wines, and we'll just talk through maybe 2 or 3 minutes each wine individually. And again, I'm not even making promises on that, but that's what we have planned.
that's the plan.
That's the plan. So that'll hopefully be coming up for you guys, and then we hope that we'll be back in March to do live virtuals. So if you guys have any other ideas for the new year, anything you want to see, any pairings, of course, email us, let us know. I say we do this for you guys, but I think at this point in time, it's almost become as much for us, which is really, really cool.
It is. And so we promised to share, I promised to share Chelsea's pictures of the twins with you in March when we're all back together. And so until then, we wish you and your family a lot of health and happiness, and best wishes always. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, guys. Thank you. Happy holidays. Stay safe.
Stay safe. Thank you. Clink.